Are you a podcaster, a multifamily investor, and or a business owner, and you struggle with making money from your podcast? If you answer yes to that question, this video is going to talk about how to make money from your podcast by operating it as a business. So first thing first, we're going to get started, but let me introduce myself. My name is Terrell Humphrey, and welcome to the Phase Knowledge Podcast. Over the last half a decade, we produced over 893 podcast episodes while helping 23 entrepreneurs launch their podcasts with confidence. And the biggest question that I often get was, how are you going to make money from this? Or how can I make money from this? And over time, it was like, well, I don't know. Then as I gained the experience, gained the knowledge, gained the skills to start generating revenue, I was like, oh, a lot of people struggle with making money from their podcast. So let's talk about how to make money from your podcast. So let's go ahead and get it started. Point number one is that you have to... Hold on. This is going to be simple, but it's going to be challenging. You have to ask for the money. So shout out to his name is shout out to $1 Million Worth of Game, Wallow267. He has a podcast, one of the biggest podcasts out there. And he said this, he was like, a lot of podcasters are not making money because they're not asking for the money. So then I'm like, all right, cool. I'm like, what does that mean? What does that look like? And so I'm trying to figure out, he was talking about sponsorship, we're advertising, doing all these different things. Like, I'm not saying that it doesn't work, but I'm saying, like, how can I make that work for me? I don't have all the big numbers right now. Yes, I can go locally, but what I've started to recognize, I'm like, oh, there's something here that I didn't recognize. In order for you to ask for the money, you have to understand what you are asking for. What work is that going to consist of, and what you would need to do. When you make money from your podcast, you are making money from your podcast because you are systematizing everything. You see, it's like you got pieces to your puzzle, and this puzzle that you have, they all come together because hold on, let me finish making the puzzle because I don't know what that sign look like. However, you got this puzzle right here, but this puzzle is meant to be something. I had to learning how to sell. Then I got to learn how to market. Then I have to learn how to follow up. Then I have to learn how to present. Then I got to learn how to not communicate, but offer something. Offer. And then I got to learn how to be consistent. Let's say be consistent. Okay. So 2 years ago, I actually did my first 90-day challenge to make $100,000 within 90 days. That challenge taught me a lot because people were actually interested in the offer that I was offering. I was offering to help entrepreneurs launch their podcast with confidence. And the scariest part was to get the yes. When people start saying yes, I'm like, what are y'all saying yes to? I'm like, what are you saying yes to? But they say yes to me solving that problem. You see, a lot of entrepreneurs struggle to launch their podcast. But when I started this 90-day challenge to grow a podcast business making $100,000, I'm like, man, this is really hard. It is really hard because it's challenging. It's really challenging because it's something that you have to do consistently. So when people start to say, yeah, I'm thinking to get to the yes was actually hard. No. It's getting awareness. It's getting people to say, I would like this service. It's getting people to say, I would like this solution. But then I'm like, what does that look like? You see, this yes helped me operate as a business. So although I made $217, but I invested back into the business, I was around $10 and some change. Hold on, let me write that down. $217, but I was around $10 and some change. In fact, I actually made $400 and some dollars and some change. Like, I don't remember the exact number, but I remember making $400. Like, I look at the database. Nonetheless, during this challenge, when I made $217 and I was left with $10 and some change, that challenge helped me understand, there's something here. There's opportunity here. There's positioning here. I can stand out even more. I can stand out differently. I can do something different. But then when I start to recognize, I'm like, okay, why is this hard? It was hard because I was trying to put together what I needed when I didn't know what I needed. When people start to say yes, the yes was actually scary because I was used to getting a lot of no's. But when people start to say yes, I'm like, oh, I got to actually do it now. I'm like, what do I do? I'm like, I don't even know. And I'm like, well, in order for you to make money from your podcast, you have to know what you're offering. So that was back in 2023 when I decided to do a 90-day challenge. Then I completed that one. Then I did 7 more. Stop started. I was trying to figure out what to do, what to sell, how to position, how to be consistent, like how to consistently make money from it. And so I remember speaking with somebody. In fact, I remember speaking with a lot of people. I actually remember speaking to a lot of people. And I was presenting the offer. I was presenting a solution. And some people would say no. Some people would say send me more information. Some people were actually interested, but I didn't follow up with them because I'm like, I'm not sure how to follow up with you. And so throughout this time, I get this question often like, okay, so when you podcast, how do you make money from it? Like, how do you make money from this stuff? Like, is it profitable? Are you making money from it? I'm like, man, when I find out, I'll let you know. I will let you know because it's not just about asking people for the money. It's literally doing something like having a service to offer so people can pay for their service. It's like when I go to Walmart, buy a water bottle, I'm going to Walmart to buy a product. It's like when I go to the barbershop to get a haircut, I'm buying a service. You see, I had to recognize that I was serving entrepreneurs to launch their podcast with confidence. It's not just about every podcast. It's about a podcast that's helping you market yourself, that's helping you put yourself out there. But to offer something, to sell something, you have to ask for the money. You see, when you ask for the money, a lot of times, majority of the times, what happened to me is that I got told no. In fact, I got told yes. More than I got told, well, not more, but I got told yes sometime. But then it's like, well, how do I like deliver that? How do I deliver that promise? How do I deliver what I just talked about and not knowing that it's actually working to help me start making revenue? And it blew my mind. The revenue was already there, but I had to develop the service for the revenue to match. You see, when I start asking for the money, the money wasn't there. The money was there. I wasn't positioned right. Then I have to learn how, okay, what am I selling? What are they going to get? In exchange of this $97, what do they get? And I'm like, I don't know. That maybe they get like a podcast masterclass, or maybe they get all these different things. But I tell you this, when I start working with a couple of my clients, I start helping them get confident on camera. But then it's like, okay, this is something, that is something, it's working. But it's like, why is it working? Then as I'm like rethinking, I'm like, man, what if I just would have kept doing it? Like kept helping people launch their podcast with confidence. I tell you this, I've changed my business model so many different times. I missed the opportunities because I was unclear about the problem I was solving, the customers I was serving, and how to go about delivering it. Oh my goodness. I missed that opportunity so many different times. But I tell you this, hold on. Fast forward to today is that opportunity. Hold on. Opportunity is system. STEM. Systematized. In other words, I'm not winging it no more. I did a podcast workshop today, and this is by far one of the best ones that I've ever done because I just constantly improve. Every speaking engagement, every workshop, every online training, like I just try to improve so I can be better. What this did for me is this. I understand the value that I'm giving, right? So when I started, I was like, I got 2 goals. My goal is to educate you about your podcast so you can actually launch your podcast with confidence. My second goal is for you to leave a testimonial. If the value is so good, I would like for you to leave a testimonial in exchange for that. I was like, is that a deal? Is that the deal? That was like, yes. What am I doing? I'm asking. Hold on, let's go back to it. I'm asking for the money. You see, the testimonial might not appear like money, but the testimonial is proof of concept. It's proof of concept because this method actually works. How to make money from your podcast, you have to demonstrate it publicly and show people that it's possible to launch your podcast, edit your podcast, and produce your podcast. You see, it's not just about pressing the record. Nah. Recently, I've been increasing the amount of times that I'm posting. I'm increasing the amount of times I'm doing interviews. I'm increasing the marketing because I want people to associate with me with launching your podcast, with podcast information, with podcast content, with podcast. Why? Because I found my lane. You see, to make money from your podcast, you gotta find your lane. When you find your lane, you have to understand that you are the one that's sticking out. You're the one that's doing this business, and this business that you're doing, which is a podcast production business, which will help multifamily investors launch their podcast with confidence. And what I start to recognize is this: everybody's not my customer. Everyone is not my customer. See, they're not my customer because of this, because everybody don't qualify to be my customer. Everybody might be willing to be the customer, but everybody is not the customer. You see, when I start to recognize that I can't serve everybody, I got to figure out who to serve. It starts to help me focus even more. To make money from podcasting, you have to focus on a customer. To make money from your podcast, you have to be understandable of the problem that you solve. You see, hold on. Everyone is not my customer because everyone is not my customer. A lot of times, everyone don't have the money. A lot of times, a lot of people don't have the problem. Like they want to launch their podcast, but they don't understand that you have to be willing and able to pay for their service. If I was to go to Walmart and say I want some water for free, no, let me get that for the free. Let me get that for the free ski. They're gonna tell me no. Because I need to pay for the water. I need to pay for the water because I have to pay attention. Hold on. You see, free is not bad, but if it's always free, where's the value at? You see, understanding that the value comes from, the value comes from the price tag. There's a price tag that has to be on the product and the service that you are selling. It doesn't matter what you're selling. It matters that you have to sell something in order for your podcast to make money. Your podcast, hold on, I gotta drink some water to that one. Hold on, I ain't even got no water today. Your price tag is helping you make money, but understanding that it's okay to charge something for your business helps you understand the problem that you're solving. It took me a half a decade to recognize how to solve the problem consistently, how to position the problem, how to communicate the problem. Thank you. How to understand. I'm live on. Okay. How to understand that it's more than just a price tag. You got to deliver your value. You got to educate others. You got to inspire others. You see, my struggle was this. I thought I was going to get paid when I start telling other people that we help multifamily investors launch their podcast with confidence. But what that did for me, one, is that it positioned me good, right? It positioned me as the podcast guy. Shout out to my wife. She'd be like, you got to be the podcast guy. I always talk about podcasts. I said, at first I didn't even know what podcast was. Well, I knew what it was like over time, but it's just like, what if I do become that? What if I am that? What if I talk about podcasts? Because now what happens is, what is it called? It's, is it consistent messaging? I think it's consistent messaging. Podcasting guy, I think it's consistent messaging. Live like Larry. What's going on, man? And it's a pretty cool name. It's consistent messaging. And consistent messaging is this. It's marketing. It's marketing. What am I marketing? I'm marketing that we help multifamily investors launch, edit, and produce your podcast. Excuse me. Now, in order to make money from it, I started to systematize the concepts, the processes, the work behind it. What this did for me is that it helped me understand more about business. If I make an offer, if I make an ask, the worst that anybody can say is no. I remember being young, and I remember being young with my two brothers, and as I was young, I remember wanting to go do something, but I was afraid to ask my mama if we can go do it. And she would refer and I was afraid to get the no, but I was like, well, one day I was like, what's the worst that can happen? I went to ask her, can we go outside? She say, yes. The best thing happened, and I wasn't even thinking about the best thing happening at that moment. But the best thing taught me that there's good that can come from asking. Just because I ask and I get a no, I was at the dentist and the doctor, he understands business, like he understands business to the T. So I'm asking him questions about business, and he was like, a lot of times when people say no, that means that they don't have all the information. He was like, there's a way to handle that objection. The way he said that, I'm like, damn, that was crazy. It was crazy because no can mean more information. And doing sales, doing marketing, doing podcasting, doing follow-ups, doing email campaigns, like it's literally like I'm literally operating as a business. And the shift that I'm seeing is like beyond me. Why? Because there's an impact that's been made. I'm no longer winging it. It's no longer a hobby. It's literally me doing the business, me doing the work, and to the point of you have to ask for the money. Like I'm literally asking. Because the more I ask, the more I provide value, the more someone will say yes. And that's the difference. That was the difference maker. So point number 2 is this. Be the difference. Be the difference maker. So when you're in business, there's a thing called a business model. Okay. When you're in business, there's another thing called the business model canvas. Okay. When you're in business, there's another thing called your competitive advantage. Okay. What are all these things? These things is a business model. It's the plan that you're going to act upon. The business model canvas is broken down into 9 different sections. And then your competitive advantage is everyone else has the same thing. What makes you different? What makes you different is what's your unique selling proposition. Your unique selling proposition. Your unique selling proposition. And what this consists of is this. What makes you different? Even though you might be the same, or even though you might have a similar business like everyone else, what makes you different? Your unique selling proposition is something, is a way where you can make money. It's your process, it's your systems, it's the way you produce, it's the way you communicate, it's the way you solve this problem. You see, your unique selling proposition, in other words, your USP, I think it's called USP, unique selling proposition, is this. Well, I'll tell you mine. Ours are, we produce over 893 podcast episodes while helping 23 entrepreneurs launch their podcast with confidence. In addition to that, the way we help our customer and clients is the same way that we help ourselves. We're not talking about what we're not doing. We're doing what we are talking about and making the process easy for multifamily investors. Why? Because they no longer have to think about how to launch, edit, and produce your podcast. That's the difference. We save you time. We save you heartache. We save you confusion. Because if you don't have the skills, the experience, the know-how, that's going to take time to develop. But development takes time. But if we can save you time, now we're convenient. The unique selling proposition is that we are standing out from others because we bring the production to you. The production comes to you. The production is not simple, but the production makes you look professional. It makes you look. Hold on, there's a book. There's a book called Business Model Canvas. Shout out to Action Zone. Action Zone is where I first learned about the Business Model Canvas. And then I went to I was able to join another mentor program. It's called the Ventures, VMT. It's called the VMT. Venture Mentor, something. I don't know what the T stands for. Then I was able to get into Spark Collective, and they talked about business model canvas, all these different things. Then I was able to learn more about entrepreneurship. I tell you this, it's a difference maker when you can understand what makes you different. Because this box right here is valuable because it has 9 different pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9. What did I say? 9. They got 9 different pieces. And what this does is that it helps you identify your unique selling proposition. In order to be different, you have to recognize what everyone else is doing and then do the opposite. When I start to learn more about the podcast reduction business and I got more clarity behind it, I'm like, all right, cool. What other businesses are similar to mine? And then people start referring them. People start sending websites. I'm like, okay, what do they have? What do they have? What do they have? Okay. What are they offering? How much they offering? What they doing? All these different things. Like, I'm literally looking at it. So I'm like, all right, cool. Let me say this. Boom. Let me say this. What I'm doing, there's I learned this in school, and this I think it's called a diagram, some kind of diagram. It's some kind of diagram. It's like when we have me, then when they say others, and then in the middle is the same. Like, what do you have in common? So when I start to see that, I was like, ooh, okay. I'm seeing all these different things. They do this, they do that, they do this, they do that. Let me see what I could do. How is this similar? How is it the same? How is it different? Okay. That actually helped me. Oh man. That helped me understand that to be different, first you gotta see what other people are doing. You see, I used this example a couple of days ago, but I use a different one. Let's say Chick-fil-A. Let's say Church's Chicken, and let's say Popeyes. They all sell chicken. But the chicken is made different. Hold on. Let me. They all sell chicken, but their chicken are different. They got Popeyes, you got Chick-fil-A, and then you got, what did I say? I forgot the other one. I should have wrote it down. Anywho, you have to identify what makes you different. You go and look at your competitors, not to compete, but to be different. You got to be the difference maker, not the maker that's making the same mix. Ooh, you got to find something that help you stand out. And what I recognize is, I'm like, all right, cool. There's over 4.5 million podcasts out there. 10% of that, I don't know what 10% of that is, are consistent. And what if I can get, I want to be one of the 1% podcasters out there. But in order for me to do that, I got to figure out what people are not doing. And I recognize people are not going live every day. Every day they are not going live. Every day they are not talking about business. Every day they're not talking about what they are doing in business. Let's talk about journey. Every day they're not talking about what you can start implementing today. And I'm like, ooh, I found my lane. To make money from your podcast, you got to find your lane. As you find your lane, discover that this path that you're the one that's creating this path. And I remember doing this presentation, and there was a lot of people over here, a lot of people over here, a lot of people over here. But over here on this path, it was one person. And I say, this person right here, you got to isolate yourself. You see, when you isolate yourself, you get away from the crowd. You get away from the likeness. You get away from what everyone else is doing. You find a path for yourself. You create a lane for yourself. So then when you are isolated, guess what? You are isolated with clarity. Hold on. You are isolated with clarity. You are isolated with growth. You are isolated with customers. Because if you're different, you will stand out. What 2 Chainz say? I'm different. You got to be different in business so you can compete. If you're competing with everybody else because you're doing the same exact thing, what makes you stand out? What encourages you? Like, it got to be something different. Because I'll tell you this. To be the difference maker, you gotta be the one that's making a difference. Oh, that was hard. Talk to him nice. Hold on. Let me drink some water on that one. Hold on. You gotta be the difference maker that's helping people go from point A to point B. In business, solving that problem is what will make you stand out. I recognize if I solve this problem consistently, I'll be able to stand out. Helping 23 entrepreneurs launch their podcast with confidence is understanding where they're at today. What do they want to do? Everybody want to have more impact. But then one of the last points, I'm like, this is where we talk about business. This is where we position you as the business owner instead of the content creator. Excuse me, as the business owner, you have to understand that you have to not only show up every day, but you have to do what's needed. You got to do what's needed because that need is what creates the difference. Hold on. Clarity, growth, and customers come from you understanding your business model. Comes from you understanding what your business model is. Because now you're able to stand out even more. So last point that we're going to talk about is to solve more problems. Hold on. No. Not solve more problems. Solve more of the same problem. Not singular. Not plural, but singular. Solve more of the same problem. So the first 2 points that we talked about was this. You have to ask for the money. Point number 2 is that you have to be the difference maker. Point number 3 is that you have to solve more of the same problem. Okay, what does that mean? I'm in this course right now. I go to school for business management. I'm in this course for what is called project management. And in this course, let's say I'm looking at the numbers, looking at the people that's on there. Let's say 75 people on there, right? 75 people. All of us have the same problem. What do I mean by that? There's 75 people on this training, and we're all learning about PMP. That is good because of this. That's good because of this. Because and I start to recognize this, I was like, oh, that's what identify your customer actually consists of. You have to know your customer. It made sense today. Knowing your customer is knowing what your customers are struggling with. And then having a problem to solve this problem, or having a solution to solve this problem, so that way you can solve more of the problem. What's the difference between solving one problem and 75 problems? This one problem is the foundation to the 75. And it finally made sense of why so many people do speaking engagements, why so many people run ads, why so many people are on social media. It's like, oh man, that's crazy. And it's crazy because of this. It's crazy because of this. Because identifying one customer, one problem, one solution. Shout out to my mentor for Smart Incubator. I asked him, how were you able to go from this to that? He said, this is how I did it. I was able to solve one problem for one customer over and over and over again. So I'm like, man, how did you do that? Because I'm going to all these different courses, I'm talking to all these different people. I'm like, how did you do that? Did you have another product? Did you have another problem to solve? How did you do that? And he told me, he said, no, I didn't do none of that. I had one problem for one customer and one solution. He said, because then it makes it easier to standardize. It makes it easier to operate. It makes it easier to solve the same problem 75 different times. And it blew my mind. Because to make money from your podcast, you have to identify your customer, what problem they are struggling with, and solve their problem consistently in many different ways. Many different ways. Because then you will be the go-to guy, go-to person. It could be a guy or woman. Go-to person for a problem you solve. To make money from your podcast, you cannot be like everyone else. You have to figure out how to stand out. Your podcast, yes, it's content. It's very important, very critical. But it's not just about content. It's about you solving a problem in a way where others can understand the problem that you're solving. People want to do business with people who are solving this problem. And they don't even know that they have the problem. In fact, your customers can't put the words together, but you should have the words together because you have the language of your customers. To make money from your podcast, you have to have something to sell, something to offer, and a problem to solve. But first, you got to go from creator. Hold on. Go from creator to business operator. You have to go from creator to business operator, and this is where you start generating revenue from your podcast. So just to recap everything that we talked about today, point number one is that you have to ask for the money. If you don't ask, you don't get. My uncle was like, when I was younger, he was like, closed mouth don't get fed. So if you don't ask, you ain't gonna get fed. And that always stuck with me. Point number two, you got to be the difference maker. You got to be the one that's making the difference, because if you're just like everyone else, there's no difference that's being made. And last point that we talked about is that you have to solve more of the same problem. Not solve more problems, but solve more of the same problem, and you will be able to make more revenue from your podcast. So if you are a aspiring podcaster, a multifamily investor, or someone that's just growing and building something, make sure you join our newsletter and read the description below, so that way you can be aware and update of all the episodes and topics that we're talking about, the guests is coming on, the information received. It's not just about podcasting, it's about turning your business, you're turning your creation into a business and start generating revenue from your podcast. Lastly, don't be afraid to fail, because failure is knowledge.